I always look like I'm sunburned.
You are live.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the East Hampton Town Trustees regular meeting of June 8th, 2020. And I'd like to open with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Arlene, can you please do the roll call?
Sure. John Aldred,
Here.
Francis Bach,
Here.
Ben Dollinger,
Here.
Rick Drew,
Here.
Tim Garneau,
Here.
Jim Grimes, Mike Martinson, Susan McGraw-Keeber,
here.
and Bill Taylor.
Here.
And
Thank
Mike
you.
Martinson said he'll be joining us in about 10 minutes.
Great. I'll write that down. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to public comment. Matt, do you know if we have anybody on the line?
We do not have anybody on the line.
Okay. Business. Don't see anything listed under new business at this point. Anybody have anything to bring up?
Well, maybe this will be the time. I just wanted to let everybody know that we have our t-shirts at Springs General Store for the Captain Rysam Scholarship Fund and 100% cotton. So I just wanted to let you know it's summertime, great time for t-shirts, great time to help kids in school. And so I'm actually sold 5 today.
No, good for you. All right.
Well,
That was more like a word from our sponsor.
well, you ask if anybody has anything to say, so there you go. Oh,
Hey, Paul.
excuse me.
Okay, we'll move on to old business.
Francis,
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is business, but I was going to bring this up. There were reports of mahogany tide showing up in parts of the Great South Bay and Georgia Pond as well. Shinnecock Bay. Mahogany tide is a dinoflagellate called Prorocentrum. And I contacted Chris Gobler just to ask him if he would be looking at the samples he's taking in East Hampton to see what he can find in terms of Prorocentrum showing up. And he said he would be doing that. He suggested that it might be likely to be showing up at 3 Mile Harbour. I went down there yesterday and I didn't notice any discoloration. And I spoke to Bob Cole, the pump out boat operator who just come in off the water, and he said he hadn't noticed any particular discoloration of the harbor either. So I don't know, maybe Rick, you heard reports of anything in 3 Mile Harbour, but
Not yet, but I'm going to spread the word tomorrow for sure. So we'll have a lot of eyes and ears looking for any signs of, discoloration or mahogany tide. John, thanks a lot for the report.
okay.
John, is that a type of seaweed or?
No, it's a dinoflagellate. It's an organ. It's an animal.
Okay,
Some of them are toxic. I don't believe this one is directly toxic, but I think it can, when it blooms, I think it can have toxic qualities,
Yeah,
perhaps.
John, I sent you an article on it, John.
That's what
When
triggered
it's
all this
dangerous
stuff.
is when it dies.
Right.
When it dies, it gives off a toxic substance.
I'll also check in with Sag Harbor and see what they're up to, because they're also, as we know, we're participating with the village of Sag Harbor on their testing as well. So we do have another data source there that we can tap into.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Rick, because the article mentioned that this particular dinoflagellate is particularly sensitive to sewage waste products. So I know that's in particular what they're looking at in Sag Harbor.
Right. Yeah, no, the specific focus of this year's testing, we'll look at that to some degree, and this could be an interesting related topic that should be considered. So I'm definitely going to bring that up. And John, if you want to participate, it might be interesting to do a call with Mary Ann or another member or two over there and see what their thinking is on it.
Okay.
Hey, anything else on that?
No, but I would like to pop in here with the presentation by John Turner from last week about the Diamondback Terrapin turtle. I also attended the Zoom meeting that was later given with a few more people talking about the turtles. And I was wondering if we had come to a decision about maybe taking on some turtle excluder devices for when we give out permits or the fishermen come in. I think it would be a good, they're free of charge. And I don't know that we had a definitive reaction one way or the other about storing some.
I thought we agreed
I would be in favor of
do
something
that.
like that,
Yeah.
Susan.
Okay, because I know, Rick, you had written about the fisheries being good people to, a good group to contact and let them know about it. So if we have room,
Yeah.
I would like to reach out and order some or have them deliver some to us. I don't know how much we can really store, but I'd even be happy to bring some to my own home and just, bring them in as needed if we run out of space at our office. So
Well,
everybody's
Susan,
in
do you want to make a
favor?
resolution that we take some in, or is that even necessary, Francis?
I don't see why it's necessary. From my understanding, it's a requirement for the traps,
Right.
correct?
Right. No, I think having them available is a good thing. And if someone's new and getting into it, they can be available. And if someone's just a rec person, they may not even know about it.
Yeah.
So
Is
I
there
think
a
it's
way
really good
that,
to have them.
is there a way, or do we want to make the effort to make it known that they're required? Do we want to post
It
some?
might make sense. I mean, we could post some things up at some of the local marinas and delis and things, tackle shops, so that people know what the dangers are and, how to easily remedy it. So,
It should
last
be
year
on
there
our
were a fair amount of
website.
blue claw crabs. Yeah, on the website, there was a fair amount of blue claws in 3 Mile Harbor, and people did have traps in. And I don't know that they were necessarily protected.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to suggest I can reach out again to John Turner and see if there's something that is, maybe they even have some sort of sign that's already prepared or some language, and we can create something, and maybe, I don't know, we could put it through the machine that adds the plastic to them, post them places like that. Is that sufficient enough, Rick?
Well,
Yeah, that would be great.
and,
All right,
and
so-
may I
Great.
suggest, they get their commercial licenses through the town clerk, correct?
That's a good idea.
Yes.
Town clerk?
So they should be stocked in their office.
Can we have some in our office?
Yes, I mean,
Okay,
of course,
well-
we're gonna have,
Yeah, we'll
but
get
they
some to
get
them,
their
too.
license. They get their
Oh, yeah.
license at the town
Okay.
clerk, so the clerk should be distributing them also.
All right. I'll reach out and
If
take
they
care.
open someday.
I'll reach out and follow up on it.
Okay,
All right.
Thanks, Susan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
all right. Move on to the old
Oh,
business.
one last thing, Francis,
Sure.
I'm sorry, on turtles. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I had one more thing, I'm sorry. There are a lot of turtles crossing the road right now. A big
Yes.
snapping turtle got hit down by my house today. And
Yes.
there's no signage like on roads like Mile Hill Road that have a lot of turtle habitat and breeding areas. We have no signs. So I did reach out to a couple of people to see if there were any available local naturalists. And I don't know if our natural resources department has any, but it would be great, as part of a roads initiative, to maybe help get some signage up for, turtle crossings. I used to see a lot more of it. I haven't
Yes.
seen much of it in the past couple
We
of
used
years.
to have turtle crossing signs, and I know about the turtle that got hit today because I'm on the Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue.
Yeah.
But I was unable to attend. It was going over to Dr. Turetsky's office. But there are turtles, and people should know that they are in abundance right now. So
I saw a big sign today down by Louse Point that was put out by the Aquatic Protection Committee. Maybe you could touch base with them
about turtles?
about the turtle crossing signs.
About the
Okay.
signs.
All
But
right.
Bill, we used to have some that I thought were part of like Larry Penny's stuff when he was more involved.
I mean, they practically got to be collector's items. But,
yeah. I know I see him in a few front yards, but not as much as he used to.
Okay.
I think
we could. I'm sure we can get some made.
I think Andy
Right.
Saban underwrote the creation of those signs that Larry
Right.
put out. So he
Okay, so we need a turtle benefactor
might actually be interested in putting up some money
in
for
helping.
some more.
That would be great. Do you have a line of contact to Mr. Saban, John, or do you know anyone that does?
I know he works in your building, doesn't he, Bill?
Well, he has an office there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
Can we
those
get-
turtle crossing
All right.
signs were
Yeah.
put out for
Yeah.
box turtles. Okay, and the areas that they were put was where you would likely see box turtles crossing the road. And typically you'll see that shortly after a rain. The areas that you're talking about right now are the snapping turtles, the painted turtles, and that have mated. They're now moving to sunny, sandy sites to lay their eggs. So
Yeah, so maybe we'll have a more general sign that just covers all
yeah, the two are found in a little different area. Now with those Diamondback Terrapins,
not around here.
yeah, the likely sites for us are Napeague Harbor, Northwest Harbor, Accabonac. I don't know whether you're going to find them in 3 Mile Harbor. They like the areas where there's
Not
some sort of
much.
freshwater influx.
All right, sounds good. So does someone want to participate in
I
following
can.
through on this sign initiative, or?
I'm friendly with Andy. I can actually give him a ring or Frank a call tomorrow.
All right, that'd be great, Jim.
And then are we just putting up signs for the Terrapin or for the box turtle as well?
For turtles in general, I think.
Okay. Because I know the box turtles felt a little left out after last week's presentation.
We'll make sure they're included, Ben.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? All right, we'll move on to old business. Dredging of Accabonac Harbour, Bill?
Yeah, some more correspondence today at 4:00, but I'm not as hopeful as I was. It's
Well, Bill, it's been a good opportunity just to get the word out there with the county and, try to keep an eye on this thing, and maybe it leads to the bigger project, but I'm glad that you reached out and, made the effort to communicate with them.
yeah, we've been bombarding them, but yeah, at 4:00 we got an inquiry from their agent, the Department of Public Works agent inquiring about the status of the plover nest. We'll keep pushing.
Yep. All right, Kayak Racks?
Chris Hamilton finally got the materials from Riverhead Building to build the racks that we asked him to. And I know he's been working on it for since Friday, I believe. So I'm not sure if they're all finished or not. I know Arlene saw one that he built at Gerard Drive, so I know that one's done.
Okay.
But anyway, he's moving forward on it every day until it's finished. So it should be finished
Okay,
this week.
great. Horseshoe crabs.
And Francis?
Yes,
Also, I just wanted to say that, you know, you and Tim and myself put warning labels on the kayaks that were on the racks without permits. So that will be, that's a 2-week grace period they have to either get a permit, I'm not sure if any permits are available, or get their kayaks off the racks. And then we'll have to check again. And any kayaks that are still on the racks, we'll have to work with the harbor masters to remove and treat as found property. And people will have to then come and get them from wherever they're stored by the harbor masters.
so I
How many
believe
stickers?
that date is the 16th.
I
Would be the
don't-
2-week deadline.
Is it the 16th? Okay.
Next Tuesday, correct?
John, how many stickers do you think you employed?
About 20, I believe.
Really?
And they were almost all at Settlers Land.
It's quite a lot of non-compliance.
It was. So I think it was over 50% at that site. But the other sites, I think Francis you only put one on, Francis, and
Correct.
Tim didn't find any.
Zero.
Unpermitted.
There was 13 out of 13 at Mile Hill, and they were all permitted. And the signage was really good at Mile Hill. So I made that point that if we increase our signage or improve our signage, maybe that has something to do with the complicity.
Yeah, I have that sign put on the rack at Settlers Land.
Oh, you did? Well, great. That'll help.
I didn't do it yet, but I will do it.
Oh.
I promised.
All right. Next on the list is Baby Beach. Jim?
I don't know if anybody's been down there. Pat Bestream was good enough to truck the sand from Gerard Drive over there, no cost to us. My guys went down and spread that sand about a week ago, and then this Saturday we did the split rail fencing along the road. So that's all done. The only thing that's left to be done down there is is planting the new dune areas with beach grass, which I'll try and get to that soon. I thought about trying to do like sort of a public works project where we could get some members of the community, but I think given the situation with Corona and the fact that there's very little going on, that's kind of out the window. We'll take care of it.
Jim, I took a look at that. Built a nice berm between the water and the entryway. And I guess you hadn't gotten to the fencing yet. And I wasn't sure what the plan was. I thought it probably was going to get beach grass planted. But one thing I noticed was there were people there when I took a look at it, and they're running all over the berm. So is the fencing set up in such a way that people will keep off that berm?
Well, the fencing is set up so that what it does is it channels the traffic. It's on the dune side. It channels the traffic, in sort of a circular pattern there. So you actually exit that site. You enter on the site a little bit to the north.
Right. Okay.
And we'll see. We'll play it by ear. We did reinstall the snow fence that was on the northeast side of that access road. We reinstalled that, set that up. But after we plant the beach grass, if it's starting to get trampled on, we may actually have to do some snow fencing or that to limit the access to the area.
Maybe we could just put up a string fence around it when we plant.
The string fences don't tend to be terribly
just as a visual. It looked good though.
Thanks.
All right. And the Next item is, I sent you guys earlier copies of a resolution with LIPA for an underground utility easement.
Yeah, I had a chance to look at it, Francis. It looks to be in order with respect to some of the committee discussions we had on it earlier on. And it seems like a nice opportunity for the trustees.
Yeah, we should explain that these easements are, basically they're along the high tension roads, which cross over trustee roads. There are existing easements, and this is just to allow them to go underground with upgrades. But if everyone could take a chance and look through it, there are some, a little bit of cleaning up to do with it. Chris is working on that with Milla, and we'll see if we can address the resolution at our next meeting on the 22nd.
Francis or Rick, did they provide any maps just for, just to kind of get our bearings on this stuff? I was not part of the committee discussions.
This all started a little over a year ago with just an email from LIPA reaching out to the possibility of getting these easements. And it was handed over to Dan and Milla. So I honestly haven't seen, I can't recall seeing maps.
Okay.
But
Chris, it is pretty intricate with a lot of the paper roads up in that area. And, this may be another research project that is taking place by a future board. But I think the need for more documentation is apparent.
Okay.
I noticed they have the tax map numbers on them.
Yeah.
So can you locate them?
Could be,
Yep.
could be cross-referenced.
Hey, guys, anybody notice we have a caller holding?
Yes, I noticed.
We have Rick.
Hello?
Oh, we do have one.
Yes, Jason Maslin. So.
Jason? I think we can take, you guys, shall we take the caller now? Or do you want nothing else on this? On the easements?
No, I think
We're good. We're going to table it till the next meeting so everyone has a chance to look at it.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So
All
am I
right,
so am I taking this, Francis?
Yeah, let's take the caller.
Okay, give me 1 second, please.
Francis, you jumped over Horseshoe Crab Survey, and I have a 2-second comment on it when we're done.
Okay.
Caller, you are live.
Hello, Rick. This is George LD. Can you hear me?
Hello, Rick. George on the call.
Yeah.
Hey, George, it's
okay, Rick.
Francis.
I'm sorry I didn't get to you earlier, but in the past 3 days, you're talking about box turtles. I crossed 3 box turtles on Shore Road down at Lazy Point. Unfortunately, I missed one, and it got flattened by the traffic. Now, if you need somebody to help you put up some signs for the turtles, I'm willing to help. Just give me a buzz, okay?
Thank you, George, very much.
Thanks, George.
Hey, George, thanks. You
Okay.
got my number. Why don't you just give me a ring sometime tomorrow?
Okay, I will, Jim. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, George.
Thank you, George. Okay, do we have anyone else on the line?
That would be it.
That would be it. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go on to committee reports. Accabonacock Creek.
Actually, I think Tim wanted to mention something about the horseshoe.
All right, I'm sorry, Tim.
No problem. 2 seconds. I just wanted to report that in our Northwest Creek Transit, on the new moon, we counted 81. And then just the other night, on the full moon, we counted 30. But most importantly, that last week, the New York Times ran an article about how important the horseshoe crab will be when a vaccination is found for COVID-19. So our future efforts on this species are even more important now. So it's really an important project. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so committee reports, Acrobonic, we have a request from Dickoff, owner of 335 Kings Point Road, to close out a trustee
That's correct,
permit.
Francis. Yes, request to close out the permit. I spoke with the agent, Eric Brown. I visited the property on Saturday. It is a classic bluff restoration, very well done, nice staircase in place with some update. I think it's iPay lumber. The little piece at the bottom is going to be redone in iPay, and otherwise everything's done. The bluff looks really well done. Some core log, sand replenishment, and beach grass planted. Nice little buffer on top of the hill. So it looks great. The one thing that's interesting on the project is that the town did tie their review process of the bluff and the house together. So our closing of the permit would be out of sync with the town's. I don't think that's a big deal. It looks like everything's really tight. I sent pictures to my fellow committee members for their review, and if they want to weigh in at this time, that would be great. But I do think it's important for us to have our own process that we follow on permits. Although the question of the difference of timing, I think, is just worthy for the board to be aware of it. So if anyone would like to comment, please do so.
Well, it
Okay,
seems to me
well-
that often we're getting requests from the building department to close out these permits, or for documentation that they had been closed out. So maybe this will work better, because we can approve it, send it off to them, and they can add it to their record. And when they're finished with the whole project, they can just close everything out.
Yep. Okay. Well, I think that's a reasonable approach, and this may be a good opportunity for us to pursue that. So I'd like to make a motion to close out the Bickoff permit.
I've got to
I'll be happy to
recuse
second.
myself on this.
I'll second it. I know the
All in
property
favor?
before, and I think it's a good project. I
All
remember
in favor?
doing it.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item we have is Maslin. We received an email from the agent and asked us to table that for now.
Maslin is to be tabled as per Billy Mack, or is that Lori?
I think it's Lori.
Okay. Sorry, Francis, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Lori. Aquaculture. John, powering soft clams, 2020 season.
Okay, I wrote up a resolution for the powering for this summer. I got a little feedback on it. I don't know if anybody wants to bring anything up before I read it.
Well, John, I think it's important. Oh, I'm sorry. When you're finished.
Well, that's it. Just go ahead.
I think it's important that we give the Bayman an opportunity to pursue this crop of soft clams. It's good to see there's some soft clams around. As I understand it, these are not seeded shellfish. These are naturally reproduced shellfish, which is becoming rarer and rarer. And just maybe before we do another season after this one, we could do a little research, like Mike had suggested, to kind of monitor the bottom a little bit. And otherwise, I think it was really well-written resolution.
I see Mike's not with us.
Mike is here.
Yes,
Mike?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Did you want to talk about your idea about testing and the barbers that are going to be done second?
Yeah, so you guys know I'm a bayman my entire life. Since I was 8 years old, I've been harvesting clams and oysters from the wild and farming oysters for a living for 10 years. I don't have any experience personally with churning. My experience with using power to harvest shellfish is only as a witness to industrial level harvesting, and I saw really negative impacts on the bay from hydraulic dredging by the Long Island oyster farms and other big entities that were just grand scale destructive to the bay. So on a small level, I don't know if it's good or bad. My old business partner, Michael Dole, used to say, it might be really good for the bay actually, because you're kind of like turning the garden. Tilling the garden is a good thing. But the bottom line is that there really isn't any science on this. I know they've been churning on a regular basis in Mecox Bay, and they do keep going back every year, so I guess it continues to produce. I know the razor clams got completely wiped out by churning. I like to see that there's some steamer clams showing up, and I hope that they'll continue to, so I don't want to just, oh, yay, we got some, go get them all. New York State in general tends to view the wild crop as a source of making money, and all of the commercial permits are just still a free-for-all in this state, and I think it's ridiculous because the oyster, the clam, the bivalve filter feeding mollusk is worth 1,000 times more in the bay than it is on our plates, and I just want to make sure that we don't just beat up something that's starting to come back before it really gets a chance to come back. And then two, as a representative of the people of this town, I want to make sure that we don't put a resolution out there that creates a difficult situation for the people that are, living in the regions that are enjoying the water in other ways. So, that's why I came up with a couple of different ideas to kind of fine tune the resolution a little bit. But most importantly, I think we need to gather a biological survey of what life forms exist in the areas that are going to be churned before we churn, then churn, and see what the impacts are over the years, and do a regular survey each year. This would be something that would be highly valuable to us, but also on a national level, it's data that has not been collected, and we're in a position where churning hasn't been an impact yet. So to get that data ahead of this is kind of key. And I see how we have a staggered opening season, 2 harbors, and then another 2 harbors. So I'm hoping that we can possibly source some kind of survey on the second 2 harbors that are pending to be opened for churning, and get that data. I believe it's going to be very important.
What do you want to do? Go dig some clams and do a little mini bait seine or something of the area to gather some
No, what they do is
baseline data, or looking at the soil composition, or both?
What they do, from my understanding, is they use a grid system, and they actually drive like a 6-inch or whatever depth plate into a cubic area of whatever size is normal. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It might be a square yard by a foot deep. I'm not sure. And then they actually look at everything that's living on the benthic layer, above the benthic layer, and through the benthic layer. They do a count on what shellfish are there. They do a count on what grasses and even barnacles and whatever life is in this square yard, and then they stagger those square yards throughout, and they get a relative idea of what is there. Then we come through and we do our whatever methodology of harvest, and we look at the impact, and we see, okay, the following year we went from having whatever it is, let's say that there's I'm going to just say crabs and a little bit of eelgrass or whatever else. I doubt we'll find that. But did the bio level increase or decrease? By how much? That's the idea.
And who's doing this? Who's that?
In the past, Stony Brook University. Who do we find to do this? I wrote to Susan Filipowicz today. She does these surveys. She has these surveys done on the leases that are through the Scalp program for the Suffolk County leases. So I wrote to her hoping that she would be able to give us a lead on who she uses for the Suffolk County program. I know Stony Brook University, I don't know exactly who it is that we could go through Stony Brook. It might be Gobler and Michael Dole. It might not. I don't know. I'm not saying to table anything with regard to churning. I'm saying go ahead with it. But if we can get this going before the second opening, I'd like to encourage it.
I don't think this is a bad idea. I would just caution that this is a very quick time frame to try to get, good scientific data and, have it mean a lot. This might be something that's more suited to a multi-year kind of a project. I'm not saying, don't proceed in trying to set something up and perhaps even get some preliminary data as you suggest now. I know we used to do suction dredge samples. That's something that can also pull up whatever's in the bottom, shellfish and all sorts of other animals as well. So.
Is that something that we could do, you and I? Like, I have a boat, I have hydraulic power. Is that something that we could do as trustees?
In theory, yes. But it's the setting up of the experiment, if you will, to make sure there's, scientific validity and enough information to be able to be confident about what you're seeing. That may take some assistance from smarter people than I am.
Well, hey guys, this may be one of those projects that the interest, the intention's all good, but I think, John, I think you're right. It may be pretty difficult to do something like that in the short term. You know what might be something that falls somewhere in between is to do do a track through these areas and film the bottom, okay? You can do some probes as far as what might be there besides the soft clams and store that, compare it to next, do a pass through post powering this year, do another pass through next year and see what see what kind of recovery you get on the bottom. I've got an underwater camera set up that I can do 1080D video and stuff on that would be clear as a bell.
Jim, I want to just jump in here for a second. I think Mike has an excellent idea, and I think that anything that we have that's new data to really review what the powering does. But I like your idea, Jim, of the underwater camera. But is it possible to do this before the powering starts with the camera, show what it looks like now, and then show what it looks like afterward? That's the start.
I think given the minimal setup time to do something like that, I think that's something attainable. To do random sampling and data collection on that, I think is probably going to be a pretty far reach for us to do, because that requires setup time. It requires taking of the sample by the bottom samples, taking that up, evaluating it. Mike, I don't know what kind of time you have on your hands. John, I don't know what kind of time you have on your hands, but I can see everybody's spending quite a bit of time on this.
Well, Jim, would you be available to work on something with the
I'm sure
before.
I'm sure we could figure something out.
What are the boxes called that boats sometimes go out? I know on our Lake Keezer in Maine, and I'm sure we have them here, where you can look through.
Looking,
Look box,
I'm sorry?
look box.
Look box. Do we have those here where we could take a preliminary look at the areas that are going to be open for power clamming before and
Well,
after? That's a pretty easy
most-
thing to do.
Most of them are homemade. You
I
can
have
make
two.
them.
I have two of them.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jim, I'd just like to comment on your idea about the photographing the bottom. That's fine, but it would only be one component. I think you really need to see what's in the bottom as well.
All right,
That's been
well,
the main complaint about powering when people disagree with it. It's that, you're basically rearranging what's in the bottom and eliminating things that may be there and, driving them down deeper and they're dying. So I think you need to kind of, take a look at the subsurface situation as well.
Hey, can I ask a question, John, Mike? I mean, is there any impediment to hand raking for these soft clams in these areas? Because when I was younger, there were some old timers that dug a lot of soft clams, and they used hand rakes and did quite well, and there seemed to be crops year over year. So, I'm just wondering at some point if there isn't, some areas that should be, a baseline, so to speak, that are just manual take.
Well, hand harvest.
It used to work. I don't know if there's enough, density at this point, but that was, how a lot of guys did it.
Yeah, this stuff is below the surface of the water. It's not in the intertidal. It's actually a little bit deeper than that. So it's
okay.
And in some cases, it's pebbly, gravelly, rocky. So I think churning is definitely a much more easy way to harvest. Put it that way.
Plus, it's pretty much the only way you can harvest soft clams subtidal. The water
That makes a lot
covering
of
the
sense. These were all intertidal spots.
Right.
My brother used to harvest steamer clams subtidally. He did very well with a very heavy fork thing. And he would, it was like 12-inch tines. He was working in soft mud. You couldn't work like a gravelly, sandy, rocky bottom, which is where our steamers are setting up right now. But in the softer bottom, there is a way to hand harvest subtidally. It just has to be the soft mud bottom.
Thanks, Mike.
So where do we want to go with this?
Well, schedule some photography. If we have a team of diver photographers, I think we have at least a couple people that are certified. And then look ahead towards a bigger project. Maybe Mike can start to frame something up and bring it before the board and see if we can't do an off-season project.
So I'm dive certified, and I'm happy to be a part of this. And I'm also, I have a boat. I have an underwater camera. It's not very good, but I do have a decent camera. I think if we rigged up like a little a short ski line behind the boat, you could really just use a mask and snorkel and just slowly tow over the area with the
That's
camera.
kind of what I was thinking, Mike.
So if anybody wants to talk about this some more, we can just talk on the phone sometime. I'm available.
I think the proposal is to open this in 2 weeks. Am I right, John?
Yeah, I think it's 2.5. 2.5 weeks.
Hey, Jim, how long do you think it would take to do this? You need a half a day or something like that?
Well, the thing is,
A couple hours.
the thing is, only 2 harbors are going to open in 2 weeks, and the other 2 won't be open till August. So I think Mike's idea was take those work in those second 2 harbors, give yourself the time to set up and get something going in the 2 harbors that are going to be open later.
It's kind of it's looking more like, what we could do in a half a day on a low tide in 4 hours or say with a boat towing and guys in the water trading off with a camera. in 4 hours, we could cover some ground, but to really cover like, you know, all of the town waters that are open minus the seeded areas, you know, that would take a really long time. So we would really
is
have
that a
to
longer term project or
I mean, we could, to get a bead on exactly where the intended churning is going to occur. I know we know one zone. I know of one where I see a lot too on the west side of 3 Mile. But you know, pinpointing exactly where the churning is going to happen and making sure that that's where we film is going to be key.
Well, you could do the churning yourself.
I'll be happy
you,
to.
You could do a before and after look with your own churning. That's what I'm saying.
I could do that.
You know, and in terms of, I don't think you really have to do everything. I mean, there are stretches of bottom that are similar. So like Hands Creek south to the Duke Dock is all similar. So you don't have to do the whole thing. Mm-hmm. You could do, you know, a 10 or 20 foot section of that. And you could move to another bottom type and do a section there, section off the harbor. If you want to do the whole harbor, all the environments, you don't have to do the whole environment. You could do, you know, subsections of all the different types of environments.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm in. So if anybody wants to join in on this, if we want to make this a aquaculture committee event or something, or if there's certain members of our board that want to do this together, or just say the word and I'll count. I'll raise my hand.
I would be interested in helping out on this project. I'm a certified rescue diver, and anything snorkel, I'll do anything to help out if you need extra hand.
I would just recommend that before we go, you know, setting something up ourselves, we consult with somebody who does this for a living, you know, sets up these kinds of, you know, benthic ecologist or something like that, or somebody versed in benthic ecology. So that we know, you know, that we're not just chasing rainbows here and not, you know, setting up some actual valid experiment.
Would you have anybody in mind for that?
Well, there's people at Stony Brook and people at Cornell, probably. People in, you know, town could probably help with that. In the natural resources and the shellfish hatchery. I'm not sure we can just put everybody on a new project at short notice.
Right.
Well, come up with a plan.
In the meantime, I don't want this to hamper a bank's ability to make a living. So stick with the 2-week opening time and the schedule as it is proposed, and let's do the best we can to get a look at things and gather whatever data we can.
I think a good way to do this, if you could find the right person, would be to work with a teacher, a professor who has classes and who could use the class and their lab time to set up some kind of you know, a survey like this. I mean, we used to work with Steve Tettleback's aquaculture class at Southampton College. They would come out and suction dredge for clams, and we would seed an area, they'd suction dredge, they'd get some preliminary information, then they'd come back a following year and suction dredge a second time. So we were able to follow some of our plantings that way. It was valuable for us, it was valuable for him, it was valuable for the students.
Yeah, the only thing, John, right now, none of those classes are occurring in a manner that they can do this. So,
well, you're pretty much
get the photography and then move ahead when you have the opportunity to work with these people. But you know, I wouldn't pass up on the opportunity to start the ball rolling.
Yeah. No. Hey, John, do you want to make a motion to approve this tonight?
Well, I have a resolution. This is something that has to be done by resolution and posted in the newspaper and on the
We,
wall at the clerk's
we do
office.
have to vote on the resolution.
Yeah, let's pass this now and then work on getting it documented when we can.
Guess I need to read this whole thing, right, Francis?
Yeah, if we know what we're voting on.
Okay, it's 2 pages, so I'll start.
John, if you want, I can help you out and chip in a little bit on page 2. I can talk a little faster than you.
Okay, okay, I'll start then. All right, resolution dated June 8th, 2020 regarding taking of soft clams in trustee waters. I'm talking as fast as I can, Chris. Following resolution was unanimously adopted by the trustees, the freeholders, and the commonality of town of East Hampton. Whereas section 213-10B of the town code prohibits the taking of shellfish in any manner other than by hand power, whereas section 213-16B of the town code prohibits the taking of soft clams between May 1st and August 31st of each year. And whereas section 213-18 of the town code recognizes the trustee's authority to carry the methods, equipment, and permissible dates for the taking of shellfish in such areas as the trustee shall designate. Whereas section 213-8 of the town code authorizes the trustees to issue special permits entitling holders to take shellfish from designated areas under certain conditions and is set forth in 213-18. Whereas the Baymen of the town of East Hampton have requested that the trustees authorize the taking of soft clams by holders of commercial shellfish permits from trustee waters by the method known as churning or powering. Whereas in 1993, the trustees received a similar request, and by memorandum dated 6/1/93, the East Hampton Town Director of Natural Resources advised the trustees that churning will result in very little impact of a harmful and or serious nature, and that it's quite possible that sets of bivalves in the target area will be enhanced as the churning impacts will tend to reduce predator populations, such as lady crabs, more than prey, or harvestable bivalve populations. And whereas the trustees have authorized the taking of soft clams by powering or churning during the summer months on a number of previous occasions since 1993, and those experiences have demonstrated that powering or churning is not detrimental to the shellfish population or the environment, and is beneficial to the economic well-being of those who rely upon town waters for their livelihoods. Whereas to limit any harmful impact to the target area and to maintain a sustainable fishery, the trustees shall place a restriction on churning or powering within 100 feet on either side of a road end or other vehicle access point to the harbor. Any area containing eelgrass, plus areas seeded with oysters for the past 3 years, and areas seeded with clams for the past 5 years, as delineated in seeding maps published by the East Hampton Town Shellfish Hatchery and distributed to special permit holders. Okay, Chris.
John, I got to let you keep going. I think I have a different copy.
Okay. Yeah. Now therefore be it resolved. 1, notwithstanding the permissible dates and methods for the taking of soft clams set forth in section 213-10B and section 213-16B of the town code, the trustees hereby designate and approve the following special season and designated areas for the harvest of soft clams by the method known as churning or powering between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. on all Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. 1A, during the period commencing Monday, June 29th, and ending Friday, July 31st, inclusive, in waters certified for shellfishing in 3 Mile Harbor and Ecabonic Harbor. And 1B, during the period commencing Monday, August 3rd, 2020, and ending Friday, September 4th, 2020, inclusive, in waters certified for shellfishing in Hog Creek and Napeague Harbor, except in both cases above, within 100 feet of a road end or other vehicle access trail or kayak rack area, or any area containing eelgrass, any area seeded by the East Hampton Town Shellfish Hatchery with oysters within the past 3 years, and with hard clams within the past 5 years, as delineated on seeding maps published by the Town Shellfish Hatchery. Number 2, only persons who possess a valid 2020 Town of East Hampton commercial shellfish license shall be eligible to participate in the special season described in paragraph 1. Special season shall be subject to such conditions, rules, and regulations as the trustees shall impose thereon. Number 3, by the authorization of and under the conditions set forth in Chapter 213-8, special permits, trustees will issue special permits to otherwise eligible persons to participate in the special season described herein. Pursuant to Section 213-8B, application for a special permit may be made between Monday, June 15th, 2020, and Friday, June 26th, 2020, at the trustee office, 267 Bluff Road, Amagansett, New York, 11930, during normal business hours. Applicants must produce their valid 2020 East Hampton commercial shellfish license, a New York State driver's license, or other New York State ID. And pursuant to Chapter 213-8B2, applicants must, at the time of application, execute a sworn statement, penalty of perjury, that the applicant has not been convicted of a violation of this chapter or of a former Chapter 125 within 1 year prior to the application therefore. Number 4, anyone found guilty of violating Chapter 213 or the former Chapter 125 within 1 year prior to date of application shall be ineligible for a special permit. Further, the trustees will strongly recommend to the court that it revoke the special permit for any special permit holder subsequently convicted of violation of Section 213 or the former Chapter 125. Number 5, the special season shall authorize the taking of soft clams by the technique known as churning or powering with a propeller, and only on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays during daylight hours only and only during the time frames in the area specified in paragraph 1. No other method of taking is authorized. 6, no permit holder shall take more than 2 bushels of soft clams per day from any or all of the areas described in paragraph 1. All clams so taken shall be placed in either wire or plastic bushel baskets. No person shall possess any quantity of soft clams that do not fit flush within said basket. 7, any boat containing soft clams in trustee harbors on days when churning or powering is permitted shall be subject to inspection by the trustees or the harbor master. And finally, 8, all other provisions of Chapter 213 shellfish shall remain in effect within the areas designated in this resolution. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect upon filing of the same, the East Hampton Town Clerk, and posting as set forth in Section 213-18 of the Town Code, and shall expire at 3 p.m. on September 4th, 2020. Trustees of the freeholders and commonality of the Town of East Hampton, Francis J. Bach, Clerk of the Trustees. That's it.
Excellent
Do I
job.
have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All
On
in
my,
favor? Oh, go ahead.
quick question, on my document, it says that it will expire at sunset on August 4th.
That's my mistake. I changed.
So it is
on my
September
document. Yes,
or August?
September.
September, okay. All right, so I'll second Jim's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. All right. Let's move on to the mosquito larvae survey, which I believe started today.
Yes, June 8th. May I start, John, and you'll take it from there with our team picture so everybody gets to see for I think I go down to share screen, right? And
Yes,
then here, and there we are, right?
there you are.
Here's the team. It's 6 of us. And we have to the left, Mike. That's me. That little fuzzy ball there is Clover, who belongs to Edwina Von Gaal, and Edwina lives on the harbor. So she's my teammate. And I think, John, you and Mike went out together today, right?
Right.
And then to the right, we have the planning department. That's Mike Delalio and Eleni, I'm going to screw her name up, Nicolopoulos. So we all had our masks on today, and we have on our polygon, which started on Girard Drive, it has never been found to have any mosquito larvae hotspots. So we have a new place to start that's further south toward Edwina's house. And I took several pictures of the harbor, and I don't know that this works or not. If I show you this, do you see that picture or no? Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So that is closer to Edwina's house, but the harbor has changed quite a bit from previous years, and I don't know if it's due to, I'm sorry? Hello?
Someone just coughed, I think.
What happened?
Someone just coughed, I think.
Oh, let me go back to this. Okay. So this is unusual looking. A lot of, Edwina is of course, perfect earth. So she was pointing out that a lot of what she was seeing was actually had died off. And she doesn't feel that what we saw, a lot of it may probably be dead, but hopefully some will come back. I don't know if you see the smaller picture here. I'm not very good at doing this, but we saw a lot of large pane sections that were saturated. Fortunately, little mosquito larvae on our polygon, except for the 2 spots that we typically do see larvae. And I actually did a video of the larvae.
Before you go on, Susan, I'd just like to point out that those dead areas, or pans as they're called, we saw them in our section of the marsh as well, ones we had never seen before, large areas like this, dying grasses. Spoke to Mike and Eleni, and they also saw this in their section of the marsh. So
Okay.
this is
Yeah,
not a good sign.
no, I think it's changed quite a bit. I don't know if you see the small picture here, but we saw a lot of this throughout the marsh. And so it was not encouraging. Edwina felt that there has been a lot of change that is not good as well with die-off. So I just wanted to share those with you. And if anybody would like these for our file, I am keeping a file on the changes. And we also have Mike Martinson. I think you took this picture, Mike. Let me enlarge it for everybody. And there is John at work. Can you see this? All right. Mike, you took the picture, right?
Yeah, that's John.
No, I know, but you took the picture.
Yes, I took the picture. Yep.
Okay. And as you can see further out, the harbor, and then this narrow piece of land is cut. That's the what are they called, John? The runners that were cut in by the WPA. Now this is probably an old dock or something, but
That's a fence line.
a fence line. Okay.
Along which the ditch is dug, I believe.
Okay. So I have a lot more, but I just wanted to share those few pictures with you so that you could get an idea for yourselves of what the harbor is looking like. And as I said, we only had the same 2 hotspots that we've experienced in the past, and we did have mosquitoes, and I have a nice picture of them moving video. But it'll be interesting to see how it transforms over the summer season. We have had a lot of rain, and I think that added to the marsh looking very wet.
An interesting thing about this particular picture is that if you see the bushes beyond where I'm standing there, that's another fence line. And it's a little bit of a raised section of the marsh. And where I'm standing is inland, if you will, from the harbor. And
Right.
what happens is water comes in the high tide, rainwater mixes with it, and it gets trapped behind that fence line, which has built up over the years and created a bit of a dam. So it doesn't allow the water to drain back through the marsh into the harbor. And that's very often where the hot spots of mosquito breeding are found. And that right there, I think that's one of them. We're finding a lot of larvae in that particular spot. So those are the kinds of things that once we move on to the next phase of this project, hopefully we'll be trying to rectify by looking at ways of regrading to reestablish the grade of the marsh so that the marsh can flood in and evacuate the water as the tide goes out without these impediments to drainage.
Right. And a few weeks ago when we had Dr. Nicole Mayer on, she was talking about the health of the salt marsh. I'm going to send her some pictures so that she can see it. You know, maybe we can move forward. Whereas during the winter, we had tried to get together, but all sorts of things got in the way, including coronavirus, to start to talk about how we can make the salt marsh, bring the salt marsh back to good health and what can be done. But this was a good start, and I'm glad that, you know, we're doing it, and I think it's important. Right now, it's pending. Tom Iwanek of Suffolk County Vector has not come up with a determination as to whether or not there will be a spraying. That's my understanding, John, and I think yours as well at this juncture.
Well, now I have a map that
Oh yes, so
Vector Control sent that will be what is sprayed this week.
Okay. I'm going to just throw up one more picture here. We had County Legislator Bridget Fleming. She joined us today and did the whole polygon, and she's been the person who was really spearheaded this program with Bill Taylor, a few years ago, and with the Nature Conservancy. So she came along to see what the salt marsh looked like, and it was a good morning. Good morning, and I'm looking forward to the next visit. So I'm going to take myself out so you can bring your map up, and let me see how I do this. Share screen. I just click this off, I think, and then get rid of that. Share, no, share.
Susan, hang on.
Is that incorrect? Hello?
Give me 1 second.
Okay. I have, oh, there you go. Okay. All right. So John's picture I can just X out of, I guess, right? And that one as well.
Okay, John, you have anything you want to add?
Do you see the map? Am I showing the map on my screen?
There it is.
This is the map that was sent by Vector Control today. The yellow squares will be all that they're spraying this week. So these are the areas that showed high incidence of larval activity. And so that's a fairly small section of the marsh that'll be sprayed. You know, before we started doing this kind of thing, they would have just flown the helicopter along the whole marsh, not knowing where the breeding activity was taking place more or less. So now they know they can target, and this is what they'll be doing this week. So it's a fairly small area.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I got.
That's awesome.
Okay, great. All right, move on to beaches.
Actually, Francis,
Yeah,
while we're still on aquaculture, can we just talk about the Suffolk County Aquaculture Lease Program?
sure.
As I think everybody knows, I sent out an email with a link to the maps the latest maps that the program has produced, which were created as a result of all the comments they received on maps that were previously published back in 2019 showing different uses of the bays and distillation of comments received by different interest groups in the bays. And these maps were published last week, I believe, and the county has asked for comments to be returned to it within 30 days. So I think this is the opportunity the board has to take to get together and discuss this program and see what how we all feel about it and what the issues are and what kind of a response we'll bring back to the county from the board itself. And I think this is going to require some time, and it may be difficult because we can't sit down and around the table and look at the maps together. But so I think it'll require a special meeting to do.
Hey, John, what I can do is like I said, I'll print out those various versions of the map. I'll put them at the trustee office. Any members that have an interest, you're welcome to come in, sit down, have a look at the maps. If you have any questions, you could probably call John. He knows more about it than I do. And he's got all the time in the world to talk to you during the day because he's retired.
Thanks, Jim.
But in any case, I think it's in our interest to weigh in on some level here with the county as far as our preference. Doesn't mean that we're getting what we're asking for in that, but I think as the trustees, we should have some input here. And myself, I don't really like looking at maps on a computer. I like to be able to scale, take notes, whatever. So we've plotted those maps out. I'll leave them in the office. Anybody that feels the same way I do, you can go in there and check them out.
Good question. Somebody mentioned having the maps have an overlay. Was that you, John, or Jim? Somebody suggested that the maps should really show overlay so that you can see the changes that have, the original map to the changes that have occurred over time and where we are now.
If we can do that, we will, but I'm not sure I've got the capacity to do that.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to have to look at, if you want to look at the changes, you're going to have to look at the old maps and then the new maps.
Yeah, you'll have to toggle between.
Okay. I just heard somebody had mentioned that that would be a good idea and they were hoping that that would happen.
Yeah, it may be a case where we can scan them and then do an overlay. The problem is if the maps are at a little different scale or that, sometimes it's problematic.
And I'd just like to say, if anybody does want to go over the maps when they get into the office, I'll be happy to make myself available to come in and go over them with you, explain what I can.
How many people are allowed in the office at one time? Is there a number?
2.
2? So we have to have a sign-up sheet then, John. 2 people at one time in the conference room?
Like I said, if anybody wants to call me up and say, can you come into the office, I'll be happy to go in with them.
I think we could treat it more or less like a committee, as long as you don't exceed a quorum.
I think we can stay 6 feet apart in the office.
I think so too.
I think technically we can't go beyond half of our staff.
Even if we're viewing maps?
Well, it's probably, we're discussing an issue that's going to be discussed publicly, something that's going to be discussed publicly.
Meet in the front lawn and you can just go into the office as needed.
There you go.
Okay.
So I don't know, Francis, I mean, you tell me, how do you want to set up a time now or?
If visiting hours?
Are we talking about an official meeting or special meeting? Or
I mean, I see it as a special meeting. I mean, it's got to be, it's a discussion only among the trustees, but we're going to discuss it as a board. There's a quorum, and that's requires a meeting, as a public meeting, right?
well, we cannot exclude the public. So to me, that means a situation such as this would have to be arranged and posted.
Right. But I guess
So-
my whole point is, it's, you know, if you're going to try to do this, I mean, if you want to do this at a meeting, a regular meeting, you got one more meeting, the 22nd, that's it. And
It would have to be a special meeting.
I think it's going to take a lot of time with all the other business. It'll be a, you know, midnight meeting. It could be.
Yeah, we have Steve Warner that wants to present next week also.
2 weeks.
Right, at the next meeting, I'm sorry.
That's
Right.
on roads, Rick? The history of roads?
Northwest Harbor.
Oh, nothing was, okay.
I mean,
So,
you want to set up a meeting for next week?
well, we can make a proposal. We'll have to see if it could be covered by LTV on that date, or we can try to negotiate their schedule.
When will the maps be available in the office?
We're gonna get them over there tomorrow.
Oh, okay, thank you. So I would certainly like to see them in person and go to the office. So, John, I guess I'll give you a buzz. Anybody else? If they're there tomorrow, maybe Thursday?
Okay.
Wednesday, Thursday?
It's going to rain Thursday. Good day.
It's gonna rain Thursday?
So they say.
So how about Wednesday?
Okay, so
Oh,
Let me
Thursday's a
propose
good-
this.
That rain day is a good day to go.
let me propose this. I'll talk to LTV, see what they have available. And then I'll send it out to you guys and we'll post a special meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
All right,
Francis, will be a Zoom meeting?
yes, yes, it has to be. What, I'm sorry?
I won't be able to make a evening meeting on Thursday or Friday, so just keep that in mind.
Thursday or Friday. Okay, I'll do the best I can.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim, what size are these maps? Are they printable on a 17 by 11? Or are they bigger than that?
Yeah, they're bigger. You know what we're gonna do is, I think she plotted them at 24 by 36, something in that area. So they're big
Just
enough.
thinking if there's ways to get a few extra copies, if members of the public want to be able to have a look and still meaningfully participate in a Zoom meeting, might be good to have some extra copies on hand and allow them to stop by and grab a copy. I don't know if that's an idea.
We
but-
can probably do that.
You can see I'm sharing online right now.
Okay. Yeah,
I
that looks,
believe-
good as well.
Maybe that.
I believe most of the people who have expressed interest in this have received their own copies.
Great.
Oh,
So I don't think we need too many extras.
Okay.
And I
A
think,
couple
you know,
gas
when
copies and a main copy.
I think when we do meet and discuss this, we'll have, you know, we can bring it up on the screen that Tim just did and can zoom into East Hampton. So it's not going to be too onerous to see what we're talking about, I don't think.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
mhm.
Yeah, it seems like we could probably get a lot done just like this.
Okay.
All right, you done with this?
Yep.
All right, move on to beaches. Request to close out trustee permit B number 2-19 issued to 199 Lily Pond Lane. The sand placement, beach grass planting, and shoreline fencing.
Yeah, this was a property that got blown out early in the spring. They've just sent the request in to close it out now. This work was all done towards the end of March. It looks good. It's all grown in. It's holding up pretty good. And I think somebody here took some pictures of it. I know the applicant included plenty of photos with the request for the closeout.
Mm-hmm.
I was there.
Jim, it's great to see an applicant that's working with the trustees, getting the proper permits, following procedure. It's really refreshing to see that. So I think it's a testament to the beach committee's good work.
Yeah. I'm prepared to make a motion that we approve this and close it out. Looking at the pictures right now of 199 Lily Pond, and they did a really great job. So it looks terrific. If anybody wants to see these photos, I have it up right now. Does anyone want to see them?
Sure.
Scroll through.
Sure. Let's see.
Okay. Let me see if I can do this. Share screen.
Nice.
Can you see it? Can you see them?
Now we do.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know. I'm not good at this, so I'm sorry. But that's 4. Okay. And then this is taken near the high tide line, looking northeast. And so those are just the only 2 that were sent, but looks good.
And I was there today, and it looks great.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to close this out. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Am I still sharing? I don't know how to fix this now.
Yeah.
I am or I'm not? Oh, I'm not. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Education outreach update.
Well, I'm still outside of the schools. We all are. So don't really have anything other than to say that we're hoping and looking forward to next fall. I'm trying to think of ways that we might be able to do something that's creative given the pandemic as it is. And I was thinking maybe with the t-shirts that maybe we should start doing something online. And I'll talk to Ben and Tim to start to generate some interest and income for the Captain Ransom Scholarship Fund. But until the schools are opened again, we're really, and the public is allowed to attend various different events, I don't think that we have anything to say. We're just waiting like everybody else. Tim, Ben?
Should we start like a Instagram page or something?
Yeah, an Instagram page?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
And maybe we could take some pieces from the turtle presentation and put it in our presentation too for the schools.
Okay. Oh, yes, and I have that, which we have not shown yet. I was thinking of adding a little background music. What do you think, Ben?
Sure. Anything to make it more fun and
Okay. Tim?
yeah.
Anybody have original music?
Not me.
All right. Well, we'll talk.
Okay.
But yeah, we do have that, and that's something that still I'd like to present to our trustee members here who have not seen it. Okay, that's it. Right? Anybody?
Supposed to check to see how is the onesie supply these days.
Well, maybe in 9 months there'll be a lot purchased. I don't know. We have quite a few.
No.
I will tell you that we are out of size large in the youth, so I'm going to order some. That's the only one that we don't have. I took it home. Large, youth, and size 6.
Okay.
But onesies, you have some children coming? Babies? Anybody?
Not I.
No, but
not I.
anybody?
We know some people.
Okay. Well,
Hey, Susan, could we
All right.
sell the t-shirts at any other locations besides
you
the
can
general
sell them
store?
wherever you can. Yes, I got the Springs General Store. They were there. Obviously, we were there today for the Aquabonic Harbour, but the mannequin is still there. The apron's there. I'm going to bring back a sweatshirt because somebody must have bought the sweatshirt right off. And also Stewart's Seafood. But any place you can, ask them to sell them, that would be terrific. Montauk, absolutely. Anywhere.
Okay, great.
Maybe you could set up a 30-second commercial for the middle of a trustee meeting and then take orders over the phone.
Okay. Right.
I think,
Like a call-in, like the Red Nose group, that, you call in, or,
It'd be like the home shopping network.
yes.
We could all wear them
Cosby
too.
would be happy to carry those for you.
Yeah, so maybe one night we should have, we should all wear the t-shirts and people will buy them then.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Where'd you say, Tim or Mike, that we could leave them?
Cosmans. They're
Oh, yeah.
they're doing a lot more food sales, and at their fish market, they've kind of ramped it up a little bit with some good branding, and it would be good to be there.
Oh,
Good idea.
okay. Can we say that you suggested it?
Sure. Yeah. Talk to Asa.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, on to Georgica. Request to renew trustee permit issued at 25 Cove Hollow Farm Road for permission to reconstruct a walkway, phragmite removal and revegetation.
Okay, this is a permit InterScience put before us about a year ago. We approved it. What happened is, what very frequently happens, it took them quite a while to get the village permit sorted on this one. This was a property that had a set of stairs, had the walkway, had the floating dock. It apparently went through the whole permit process, but for whatever reason, the village didn't have any records of it. The property was changing hands, and in a manner to expedite the closing, the decision was made to remove everything. And this is really to put it back. And at the same time this was going on, they did discover, like many of the properties in the Cove Hollow Farm subdivision, that the scenic easements had basically been violated. So there is an approved plan for the revegetation work. And now that they have all of their village permits, they just really would like to renew our permits so that they can actually do the work. I'd like to recommend that we renew this. We've already discussed this, we've already approved it.
Yeah, I'd
Second
second that,
motion.
Jim, as a member of the Ponds Committee.
Hey, Jim, one question. Does our permit follow the same conditions as the village permit?
I believe it does, yes.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Fine.
Aye.
Okay. Harbor management, update on the dredging of Little Northwest Creek.
I can start on that, Francis.
Okay.
Drew Bennett had a meeting with the Sag Harbor Village Harbor Committee, more of a consistency review with their local planning, and it went well. And, he has their support on the project. Also during that meeting, Fred Thiel updated everyone that he is pursuing funding through New York State for the project. Everything is a little bit in flux right now, but overall, the project seems to be moving forward as well as can be expected. And that's really about it from my perspective. Jim, did you want to add anything?
No, we have actually gotten, Army Corps, Department of State has basically signed off on this. I think that's going to go a long way with the DEC. I do expect that they're going to issue permits on this thing, hopefully in a timely manner. Nothing over at DEC is happening fast right now. We did have Drew and I had a meeting several weeks ago regarding this project, and we also talked about Hackabonic, and they were pretty supportive of it. I mean, there really doesn't seem to be any real issues here.
Great, thank you. So I would say we'd have an update, in the next 60 days to 90 days about a timeline to hopefully start a project. So we'll keep in touch and report back with any further
this
updates.
is something, honestly, guys, I expect we'll get the permitting on this. The conditions of the permit, I'm sure, are going to read that this can't be done until after the end of September.
Are you looking to use a private contractor on this?
Well, this is something that clearly there'll be a private contractor. This is going to be a land-based excavation. So it's going to be hydraulic excavator. The material that's excavated is going to be used to nourish the beach that's eroded in the adjacent area. And as far as who's going to pay for this, this is hopefully going to be something that there's a bit of a partnership between the community and the state. We have made no commitments as far as being a financial participant. We've been handling the permitting, but I'm sure that's going to come up in discussion here at some point.
What have been the discussions surrounding maintenance of this inlet once it's created? Have there been any?
Well, you know, John, we'll in all likelihood, the terms and conditions of the permit are going to allow for a pretty significant period for the re-entry and maintenance of this area. It's going to be a 5 or 10-year permit. Hopefully, the fact that this is being engineered, this is not something that's should likely need to be revisited on like an annual basis. I think this is going to be something similar to the condition that we have over at Fresh Pond. You know, it's going to probably two times during the life of the permits, you'll need to go in there and actually do some work.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay. While we're on it, is there any news on Fresh Pond?
Not other than what I just said. We have been pushing on a different level on, if we want to step back to Georgia Pond for a moment, we have had some discussions with the DEC. We went on a Zoom call about a week ago or 2 weeks ago now on that. The DEC is really dragging their feet on the algae harvester. And in the meeting that we had with them, it was kind of a disconnect. It was like they never received any information from the friends or anything on this, when there's been really a plethora of information that's been dumped as part of this permit application to reinstate the algae harvesting in Georgia. When we did have the meeting, Chris Gobler did a great job of sort of articulating history of his work on the pond, the goals set up on the forth on this. I did have a phone conversation with Will Bowman, who's handling the actual permit application, and he was putting the final touches on a response document to DEC's request. So fingers crossed, hopefully we'll get something together for this season. My concern is with the rising temperatures, the fact that Georgia Pond is at this point closed, that we may find ourselves in exactly the same situation that we found ourselves back in 2015-16 when we had the harmful algal blooms.
Jim,
yeah, the harvester was really, really good at cleaning up the pond. I got to tell you, you know, it got so bad you couldn't even paddle across the pond. And I think the harvester really had a big impact. And I don't think it really affected small fish species and, you know, other life that was in the pond that badly.
Well, I think we got a honeymoon last year by the fact that the pond, that the let stayed open right through till the end of July. So irregardless of the algae harvester operating in there, you had the soil, you had the water exchange, which abated any algal blooms until the very end of the season. This is a different situation this year.
Any movement from the town on it?
Pardon me?
Have you heard anything from the town on that?
No, the town, you know, the town's basically required some sort of secret review, which has been put in the hands of the DEC. And the DEC basically, they've taken on the role of lead agency here. And, you know, unfortunately, they're looking upon this, even though this is a project very, very similar to the several seaweed harvesting projects that we approved in both Accabonac and most recently in 3 Mile Harbor. The DEC's looking at this differently, and it's unfortunate because the exact same goals that are set forth on those seaweed harvesting projects is what we've done in Georgia Pond. And the only difference is we've been more effective at doing it and have been able to demonstrate measurable improvements in the water quality as a result of it.
It's unfortunate.
So we're, Sarah's been on this. The Will Bowman's been on this. And, unfortunately, on any of these things, it takes so bloody long to get a response from the permitting agency. And then you've got to craft a response to their response. This has been just sort of limping along.
Well, this whole issue with the harvesters started just a little over a year ago.
Well, no, the issue actually started 2 years ago with Jeff Bragman doing the usual on secret review. And, that was it wasn't an off-base statement, but I think what's unfortunate here is right now, the Friends of Georgia are being held to a level of scrutiny, excuse me, that the DEC and some of these other agencies clearly do not hold other parties to. And, it's really hard to get them past that mindset. And, you can't be a jerk and, and call them on it too much, because we do need their cooperation on this. But I think we're getting closer. By the end of our conference call, there did seem to be some softening. I just would really like if they could return these documents around more quickly. But Will assured me he would be getting that out soon.
Let's go to Roads Committee. General update for access and inappropriate use of trustee property.
Thank you, Francis. I have 4 roads that I'd like to talk about tonight. The first is Old Sag Harbor Road. There is, unfortunately, 2 issues. One on Old Sag Harbor Road proper. There's a lot of tree debris, and by a lot, I mean, tons and tons of heavy logs from big black pines that died due to the pine beetle. And they are, I would say, pretty clearly on the trustee property. And we really should make a decision on what to do with all of this. I think there's probably a group of homeowners that were trying to help and cut these trees down so that they didn't damage their homes or cause any other problems, because they are quite large. But the disposition of all the cutting wasn't done properly. So that's going to need to be addressed. And Ben, I could really use your help on this one, because this is going to be a big one. We may have to get, roads or parks involved from the town. So I'd like to meet with you over there sometime, and you should head over there, look at Old Sag Harbor Road and Edwards Hole Road, which is kind of interestingly quite different, where there's a lot of improvements on the trustee property, like nice, beautiful trees planted, but with deer fencing around them and other structure that we usually don't see on trustee property without any notification. And also, they're kind of close to the road. It's not a wide road. So, there are some issues here that, should be at least discussed by our board. And we should be communicating with this community. It's almost like there's a mini homeowners association going on over there. And, we should be looking at this more carefully. Over in the Grace Estate, we've had a history of inappropriate use and bonfires left smoldering. Rick Whalen from the Nature Preserve Committee did send a letter to the town board, and I believe the East Hampton Town Police Department requesting more visits to the area. And, at this point, there's so much use down there, as there are with many of our beaches and other areas. There is 2 existing gates on the main roads into the Grace Estate. We could use a combination lock there and make sure our first responders have it, and our chiefs and dispatchers. So that is a consideration, maybe on a trial basis. A lot of, damage to the environment within the Grace Estate due to access by trustee roads, which is a tricky discussion. Town Line Road, there's been extensive dumping over the years back behind the airport on the way to Southampton, Sag Harbor. We now have fresh correspondence from homeowners about speeding and four-wheeling up and down the road. So this is probably a good candidate for a gate. You know, I hate to be speaking against public access, but there's just, you know, such blatant violations that it's really hard to not consider some type of timeout here where we get a chance to think this through and see, you know, what we can do to educate the public about some of these, you know, really poor choices. And over at Barcelona, you know, the area is really being overrun. I don't know if these folks are, you know, residents of New York State or residents of East Hampton. Now, this is a trustee road. Should a town parking permit be required at our trustee road end next to what I believe to be a trustee beach, which is basically used by anyone either in New York State or anyone in general, because I'm not sure if the state knows to enforce or the town knows to enforce. So, you know, we just don't really have a policy there, so it's a little confusing. So these are four pretty big issues. You know, Ben, I could definitely use your help to kind of get onto these. And, you know, these are just some general recommendations and thoughts. So if anyone wants to comment, or if we want to take this to committee because it's a big discussion, that might be a more efficient use of our time. And, you know, we can continue the discussion. So thank you.
Rick, which was the second road with the deer fencing on trees on trustee property? Which road was that?
Edwards Hole Road.
Okay. Rick, you know,
it's pretty nicely done landscaping. It's just, you know, kind of the first time I've ever seen such nice improvements on trustee property.
Well, listen, if the improvements that were made were basically under the heading of restoration, they were with plant material that actually belongs there, I think that's fine. As far as deer fencing, that's a structure, okay? And anytime we allow a structure to occur on our property, inadvertently over time, we could give that homeowner the opportunity for prescriptive easement, adverse possession situation. So I think we should take any of those encroachments seriously and try and enforce that across the boards. If it's deer fencing and they're you know, technically they're supposed to go before the ARB for that. The ARB certainly doesn't approve any structures that are beyond your property line. And in fact, I would think the ARB would be asking for those deer fences to be pulled back a bit and allowed for the property owner to properly sort of screen them.
Right. So hey, Jim.
Yeah.
So this deer fencing I'm referring to, I'm sorry if it wasn't more clear, is around the plantings. So you've got very nice trees, and then there's deer fencing around the trees. So
Okay.
It's not a full property line fencing, but it is quite frequent. There's, you know, maybe a dozen to 15 trees that have this, you know, wrap around them, so to speak.
Yeah. Do you know what kind of trees they were?
You know, they look kind of like a bigger arborvitae, like a taller arborvitae maybe, and then some white pine. It was really, you know, it was nice. It was done pretty well.
White pine belongs there. Arborvitaes aren't.
There's definitely some white pine there for sure.
Are not native, and you typically wouldn't be needing to fence white pine. The deer aren't really going to bother them.
Right. No, that's what I thought. When I saw it, I was like kind of surprised. You know, they didn't do more white pine, but maybe there was some other reasons. I don't know. But it's worthy of a look. If you're over that way, you know, your opinion would be appreciated.
I wonder if they're fencing those so the deer don't rub them.
Yeah, the only thing is that season ended back in December and January.
Yeah, no, it's a busy spot. They got, you know, some water going across the street, and they've got little speed bumps set up for the hoses, and you know, it's a little more than usual. So,
well, Rick, as we've done in the past, you know, I'd be happy to help out if you do identify some properties that you determine need some correspondence from the trustees. I think we've had some level of success with letters, so just keep me in the loop.
The I'll call it the elbow, which runs from Old Sag Harbor Road off of Swamp Road to Edwards Hole, which runs off of Swamp Road in a different direction. I really think we need to contact the entire homeowner chain and sit down and have a discussion with them, because it's a group of maybe 10 homes, and they're in need of some interaction with the trustees. I think we really need to reach out.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, then I'd be happy to join in on the committee level and help any way I can.
Okay, I'll see if I can get some addresses together to send out a letter, or some way to communicate with everyone. Arlene, could you help me with that? If you're on.
I'm here. Yes, I can help you with that. I'll get you the homeowners' names.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any thoughts on the gates? I mean, it's a big issue. The Grace Estate has gates, but do we want to consider, locking these gates for a period of time? And on Town Line Road, where there's been some pretty egregious behavior, do we want to consider a gate there? Is this beyond, our charter, or is this something we just need to do on a temporary basis?
Well, Rick,
I'd like to hear from everyone, please.
Rick, you can install a gate. You can install a gate and do it in a manner that allows pedestrian traffic to move in and out, but does not allow like four wheels or motorcycles, things like that. You can do something that's a little bit like a stile to get over the fence. But once you've done that, you've taken that next step, and then the issue becomes, is the traffic going to move to either side of those gates to try and bypass it? If so, what are you going to do about that? And it's that really probably should be take one area, look at it, we try something, see how it works, and then see if maybe apply the same principles to a couple of these other troublesome spots.
Hey, Jim, if we were to maybe reach out to Rick Whalen and have a discussion as a pilot with the Grace Estate, where we have some more resources to bring towards this, do you think that might be a pilot?
I think that's an excellent one. There's they would be having a meeting this Thursday. Perhaps we could get this on their agenda.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I'll talk to you about it before Thursday. Thank you.
Thanks.
And then, Barcelona Neck, I mean, it's a well-documented trustee road that runs all the way down to the beach. And, I think the trustees have some rights to the beach there. I think we'll find that out in the near future, but we're not 100% sure what exactly is state and what exactly is trustee property down there. But, it is kind of overrun, and, which used to be a sleepy beach and a trail end that people walk their dogs and went clamming. You're experiencing some, social distancing issues and other current events that seem to go beyond, I think, what the spirit of the area is. So I don't know if that's something we can explore for East Hampton jurisdictional enforcement, or the need for some type of a parking permit. My understanding from a state level is that's a special use property that does require a permit, but it's really, turned into kind of an open air affair for dog walking and, fishing and, just general use, which is great, for state properties. But our trustee road is the main event, so to speak, to get there. So is that something we want to pursue and make sure that our town resources are available for our constituents and our community? Or do we want to say we defer to the state and just make it more of a general access state property and have our roads kind of take a second position to the state's objectives there? So, that's kind of almost a bigger issue, or two issues.
Rick, that area will be included in Steve Boehm's report next meeting?
Yes, he'll be reporting, I think, up until 1800 and all the deeds and transactions that took place during the earlier years of the trustee history. So yeah, absolutely, that's on it. And if you look at the tax map, those are two trustee roads that run all the way down to the shoreline. So it's definitely an interesting discussion. Chris, would you have some time to talk about that? Maybe with Steve and I at some point, and if anyone else wants to join in, and
Sure.
just check out where he's at with his report before the meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Francis, I think that's about it.
Okay, thanks, Rick. And we'll move on to administrative. Payment of the bills. We have Optimum, $136.43. It's our only bill.
Make a motion to pay it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have no minutes to approve. We do have financial reports for the month ended April 30th, 2020. Anybody get a chance to review it?
I didn't get a chance to look at it.
I didn't get a chance either, Francis. Sorry, it's been a busy
Okay.
few weeks, but I'll try and get caught up on the financials for the next meeting with the report.
All right, and I'll assume May 31st. No one's had an opportunity
That was
either.
the one that we just got today, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, please table. We'll be
okay.
prepared on both for next time.
Report of the clerk, I have one thing that we've received our grant money from the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation for last year's pump out boat season. We received a check of $10,000 towards our expenses. And boats started their job Memorial Day weekend this year. So that's about all I have.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Francis, I just want to say thank you,
Yeah.
Pump Out Boat Committee, and to yourself and everyone for getting the pump out boat working. So the 3 Mile Harbor boating community had the facilities necessary to responsibly manage their waste systems. So good job to the Pump Out Boat Committee. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else?
Nope. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night,
Okay, thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Good night.
Everybody stay safe, everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you as well.